Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm going to give it just a couple of moments until we start. In the meantime, if you can just confirm that you can hear me okay. In the Q&A box on the right-hand side, I've just posted a comment. If you can hear me, if you could just like that comment, and I know that then that there's no issues with the sound. So I'll just wait for somebody to confirm there's no problems with the sound, and we will move into the presentation. Okay, I'm not seeing anything yet. So just hopefully you can hear me. Fantastic, somebody's like that. Thank you very much to that person. So just before we start, to explain that myself and Sylvia tonight from Sustrans, we are both working from home this evening. So apologies if there's any background noise from pets or children. We've done our best to silence them, but it's not always that easy. This event tonight is being recorded, and we will circulate a link to the recording after the event for you to share with friends, family, colleagues, etc. if you find it useful. So with that in mind, we'll get the presentation underway. It's going to be delivered in two parts this evening. So my name is Gemma Callow. I am one of the two communications managers for Brum Breathes. I lead on stakeholder engagement. I'm going to talk you through how the Clean Air Zone will operate, who's affected, and some of the support that's available. And then I'm going to hand over to Sylvia Barnett, who's the Community Engagement Officer for Sustrans, and she will talk through some of the air quality work that they're doing. So with that in mind, we'll get the presentation underway now. If you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box on the right-hand side. We will address all questions at the end of both presentations. Thank you. Okay, so I'm trust that you can see the presentation okay. I will trust Sylvia to interrupt me if there's any problems with the sound or the vision. So Birmingham's Clean Air Zone is being introduced because poor air quality has been declared a national health emergency. Every year, between 28 and 36,000 people across the UK are dying from conditions linked to poor air quality, such as cancer, heart disease and lung disease. I won't go through all the figures on screen, but I think it's worth pointing out that of those deaths every year, 900 of them are in Birmingham. And children are adversely impacted by poor air quality. So because they are smaller and they are closer to the ground and closer to those concentrated exhaust fumes, they inhale 3 times as much air pollution than we do as adults, which means it has an impact on their growth and development, and they're 4 times more likely to have reduced lung function when they become adults. So prior to COVID, we undertook some research into Birmingham city centre and how people were travelling in. And we learned that 50% of all journeys into Birmingham were undertaken by private car. Of those journeys, 250,000 of them every single day were for less than 1 mile. So we're talking about a 20-minute walk, a 10-minute cycle ride, etc. So in the first instance, the Clean Air Zone is looking to deter high polluting vehicles from entering the city centre. But secondly, we want those people who are taking very short car journeys to consider alternative forms of transport, such as walking, cycling, buses, trams, etc. So Birmingham's Clean Air Zone will go live on the 1st of June this year. It was previously due to launch on the 1st of January 2020, but was delayed due to issues with the government vehicle checker. It was then postponed till summer 2020. And then due to COVID-19, we pushed it back to the 1st of June this year. It's important to note that clean air zones are being introduced to cities across the country in a bid to tackle poor air quality. Bath was the first city outside of London to go live. They launched last month, and we are next on the 1st of June. Each local authority will set the boundary and perimeters for their clean air zone, and also what charging status they want to introduce. So Bath, for example, has chosen a category C, clean air zone, which means private cars are not included. In Birmingham, we have a category D clean air zone. That means private cars will be included. It's important to note that a clean air zone is not the same as a congestion charge. So a congestion charge, like you have in London, will charge every single vehicle to drive through a designated area. In Birmingham, where we have a clean air zone, it will only be the most high polluting vehicles that are subject to the charge. And we estimate that will be about 1 in 4 vehicles. So when Birmingham's Clean Air Zone goes live on the 1st of June, it's important to stress that if your vehicle meets the emission standards and you are not subject to the charge, you do not need to take any action. You can drive through the city centre as you would now without needing to pay any charge. However, if your vehicle does not meet the emission standards, come the 1st of June, you can drive around the A4540 Middleway. But once you enter the blue area, which is the clean air zone that you can see on screen, you will be subject to that daily charge. That daily charge is £8 a day for cars, taxis and vans, and £50 a day for HGVs, coaches and buses. It's important to note that a day is midnight to midnight. It is not 24 hours from when you enter the zone. However, if you, during that midnight to midnight time frame, you can enter and leave the zone as many times as you want for a single charge. If, however, you drive in at say 10 PM and leave at 3 AM, you've crossed that midnight threshold and would therefore be subject to 2 charges. You'll be able to pay your charge online or over the phone using the government payment system, and you must pay 6 days prior to the day of your visit, the day of your visit, or 6 days after the day of your visit. So that's a 13-day payment window. If you do not pay within that time frame, you'll be subject to a fixed penalty notice of £120. That's reduced to £60 if paid within 14 days. We've installed 300 signs on the boundary and the approach to the zone, warning that you're entering a chargeable area, but that is the only warning you will get. So you won't receive a text or an email to say you've entered and that a payment is due. It will be the same as London, where you as a driver have to have responsibility for knowing if you're subject for the charge, knowing where the area is and making payment within the allocated time frame. So the big question is, will I be charged and what is a compliant vehicle? So the easiest thing to do is to go onto the Brumbury's website. From there is a link to the government vehicle checker where you can input your registration details and it will tell you whether or not you are subject to that charge. The emission standards we're looking for are on screen and they can be found in your V5C logbook. So what we're looking for is a Euro 4 standard or better for petrol vehicles, a Euro 6 standard or better for diesel vehicles, gas Euro 6, fully electric, fully hydrogen fuel cell, or a hybrid electric that meets those Euro 4 petrol or Euro 6 diesel standards. To put it into context, most Euro 4 petrol vehicles came into circulation from 2006 onwards, and most Euro 6 diesel vehicles came into circulation from September 2015 onwards. I must stress though, those dates are purely for guidance. It is the Euro standard we would be looking for. So the easiest thing, like I say, is to go onto the government vehicle checker through the Brumbury's website, enter your registration details and check if you'll be subject to those charges. If you do not have to pay the charge, if your vehicle is compliant, you do not need to take any action. So contrary to media reports, the Clean Air Zone is not intended to be a money-making scheme for the council. If we make no money from this project, then from our perspective, that's great news, because that means no high polluting vehicles are passing through the city centre, and as a result, we know that air quality will improve. That is our objective. However, we do know that particularly in the early days, we will make money from this scheme, so we have to reinvest that money in transport related projects and policies. It cannot be used to fund general council services such as bin collections. So some of the schemes we've identified so far have been implementing controlled parking zones on the boundary of the A4540 Middleway. So these will be parking permit schemes to protect residents, to stop people from parking their cars on the outskirts, walking in and causing problems for them. We will be funding a hydrogen bus pilot scheme for 20 buses that will come into circulation later this year. And we'll be investing in improvements to city centre pedestrianisation routes, and an enhanced programme of active and sustainable travel, such as cycle lanes. So particularly with regards to those 1 mile journeys I referenced earlier, we're trying to make walking and cycling safer and more appealing for people to do so, particularly to deter 1 mile journeys. So we do recognise that the Clean Air Zone will have more of an impact on certain people than others. So in 2018, we undertook a consultation. It was the most popular consultation the council's ever undertook and received 10,000 responses. And that was to ascertain who needed extra support to deal with the impact of the Clean Air Zone. So just to be clear, there is no specific exemption available for people who attend faith, charity or community groups. However, there are exemptions available for people who live in the Clean Air Zone and who own a non-compliant car. So if you live in the zone and your vehicle is subject to the charge, you can apply for a temporary exemption permit. That means for the first 2 years of the zone, you can drive that vehicle without having to pay any charges. You can apply for that exemption now, and if you apply before the 10th of May and provide all supporting evidence, you will be guaranteed your permit in time for the launch of the zone on the 1st of June. Other exemptions are for people who live outside of the zone but who work at premises within Birmingham city centre. So if you work at premises within the zone for at least 18 hours a week and earn less than £30,000 a year and are the registered keeper of that vehicle, it must be in your name, not in a partner's name, then you can apply for a temporary 1-year exemption permit. We also have exemptions available for commercial vehicles registered within the Clean Air Zone. So if as a charity or a faith group, you have vehicles that are registered to yourselves and you're based within the zone, you can also apply for this 1-year exemption. We will also have a voucher scheme in place so that visitors to Birmingham Children's Hospital, Badger Medical Centre and Bath Road Medical Centre can collect a voucher. And if they've travelled in a non-compliant car, they can use that voucher to void any charges. There are other exemptions, what are deemed national exemptions. So motorcycles will not be subject to the charge. And there are also exemptions for show vehicles, such as fairground vehicles, historic vehicles that are over 40 years old, specialist vehicles such as the emergency services or gritters or cranes, and also community and school transport that are either section 19 or section 22. That again is in the V5C logbook. It's important to note that blue badge holders are not automatically exempt. The only exception in that instance is for vehicles with disabled or disabled passenger tax class. Excuse me, that is tax class 85. To have that tax classification, it will be stated in your V5C logbook and you must be in receipt of certain benefits to have achieved that status. In addition to the temporary exemption permits, we did receive a £35 million pot of funding from the government, and this has enabled us to provide £15 million of grant funding for our Hackney carriage and private hire drivers who are licensed with Birmingham City Council. So those drivers can apply to upgrade or retrofit or replace their vehicles. We have £10 million of funding available for small and medium-sized enterprises who are based in the West Midlands, who conduct commercial operations within the zone. They can apply for a pot of money to upgrade their vehicle fleet or to cover the costs towards exiting or leasing premises outside of the Clean Air Zone. And finally, we have a £10 million scrappage scheme that is available for those workers I referenced earlier. So they can apply to scrap their non-compliant vehicle and receive either £2,000 in funding towards a compliant vehicle from Motorpoint or £2,000 in funding to use on a Swift card with Transport for West Midlands. It's important to note the Clean Air Zone is not a project that's being delivered on its own. It is part of a wider vision for the city. And one of those visions, or central to that vision, is Birmingham's transport plan. So you may have heard about this. There was consultations taking place on this last year. And the 4 big visions for that plan are to reallocate road space. So that's taking space away from the private car and prioritising travel for walking and cycling and public transport. Transforming the city centre, so making pedestrianisation, etc. more appealing. Prioritising active travel through schemes such as low traffic neighbourhoods. And managing parking demand. So the City Council will remove all free parking from its car parks to deter people from driving into the city in private cars and encouraging people to adopt alternative forms of transport. And then finally, just expanding on that last point, As well as the transport plan, the city does have the Route to Zero initiative, which has become net zero carbon by 2030. The Clean Air Zone plays a key part in that and is seen as the catalyst for change. And to support all of these visions, we will be implementing electric vehicle charging points across the city. So over the next couple of years, there'll be 300 rapid electric vehicle charging points installed. There's the 20 hydrogen buses that I mentioned earlier that will come into circulation later this year. And we are purchasing a fleet of 50 electric Hackney carriages for our drivers to lease from us. These are very expensive to buy outright. We're looking at about £60,000 per vehicle. That's too expensive for the drivers to buy themselves. So we will purchase them and they will lease them back on their behalf. So hopefully that has answered any questions you had about the zone. The main thing I would encourage you to do after this meeting this evening is to visit the Brumbury's website, first and foremost, to check if your vehicle will be charged. If it is not subject to a charge, you do not need to take any action. If it is subject to a charge and you qualify for one of those exemptions I talked about earlier, please apply and submit all supporting information before the 10th of May so we can get your permit out to you and approved before the 1st of June. If you go on the website and there's a specific question you cannot find the answer to, please email us at cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk. We have a team who monitor that inbox and we can reply to you usually within 2 working days. So following that presentation, I'm now going to hand over to Sylvia at Sustrans, who will talk you through some of the work that they're doing to support the Clean Air Zone.
Thank you, Gemma. Hi everyone, my name's Sylvia. Have you got my slide? Sorry, Gemma. Yeah, great. Okay. So my name's Sylvia and I am a community engagement officer for Sustrans. Sustrans is a national charity, a national walking and cycling charity, and we do a number of things. So on the one hand, we're the custodians of the National Cycle Network, so we sort of manage the National Cycle Network, like we've got Route 5 in South Birmingham, Route 86 I think in sort of Sandwell to Walsall, and we keep an eye on them and make sure that everything is easy to follow on those routes. But the other side of what we do is we kind of are involved in promoting walking and cycling, making it easier for people to walk and cycle, and trying to remove barriers that prevent people from walking and cycling. So we've been working for the last sort of just over a year to 18 months on the Brumbury's project, and our role has been to engage community and faith groups on the topic of air pollution, and get you to think about what air pollution is, how it affects you, and what can be done to kind of overcome the problem of air pollution. So what is air pollution? Well, I think Gemma explained that fairly well before, but air pollution we define as anything that's in the air that shouldn't be in the air, and by being in the air causes harm to us and also to the environment. So it could be anything that's in the air that shouldn't be in the air, but we focus specifically on particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide, because those are the two things that are of primary concern with regards to our health at the moment. Where does it come from? Well, it can come from places like construction. Air pollution can come from anything that puts dust and gases into the air is a source of air pollution. And so construction, burning of domestic waste or industrial waste, and vehicles are the main sources of air pollution. But as we're a walking and cycling charity, and as we're working on the Brumbury's project, we focus mostly on that to do with cars. So we focus on particulate matter and on nitrogen dioxide, which are put into the atmosphere by vehicles, nitrogen dioxide especially. What does it do to us? Well, particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide have an irritant effect on our lungs. So nitrogen dioxide, when it's dissolved in water, really produces an acid, nitric acid, and that causes damage to our lungs when we breathe it in. Particulate matter can get quite deep into our systems because some of the matter that's produced, the dust that's produced by vehicle exhausts in vehicle exhaust emissions is very, very ultrafine. It can pass through our lung tissue into our bloodstreams and become lodged in our brain, in other organs, and it can cause all sorts of, or it's linked to all sorts of health problems. Next slide, please, Gemma. So that's what air pollution is. What do we offer as a charity working on this project to you as members of faith and community groups? Well, we've been running these online webinar tutorials. Obviously our engagement has had to shift online during COVID. These are all free. They're about 1 hour long. They're quite informal, and there's plenty of time for us to discuss any issues that you have as a group in them. So either you can arrange one for yourself or keep an eye on our Twitter feed. If you follow us on Twitter, we let you know on there about any upcoming tutorial sessions that we have. You can also email the email address that I'll put on the screen at the end and ask us to arrange one for you as a group. Next slide, please. We've also put together these family resource packs. So they have an activity in them for children to do. You can make your own basic air quality monitor using just some petroleum jelly, cardboard, and then magnifying glass. And we can provide you with the resources that you need if you don't have access to those resources. All of these resources will be available on our blog page. Next slide, please. We also have put together some surveys specifically for faith and community groups to get your ideas about what can be improved to help your walking cycle, what your awareness is of air pollution. And there's a chance, so that they end at the end of May, I think. And there's a chance to win a bike worth up to £400. So that's a pretty good incentive, I'd say. Next slide, please. One of the key things that we've started to do now, lockdown's being eased, is that we've started to hold these air quality walks. So COVID kind of the rules permitting, that will affect the size of the group. But we've got an Earth Sense air quality monitor, which is a very sensitive monitor, very accurate monitor, and that detects particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide and nitrogen oxide as well. So we held one last week where we walked around the city centre with 3 people from various community groups, and we could happily do it we'll be doing more ad hoc ones, so keep an eye on our Twitter feed, but we can also organise them for groups. So if you're a member of a faith group or a community group and you would like us to run one of these air quality walks in your local area for you, then please do get in touch, because we'd be very keen to do that. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to play this, but hopefully I will. Yes, if you could play it, that would be great. Oh, there's no sound, but that's okay. This is a video that was put together by one of our, we had some student placement volunteers, and they were excellent at making videos. So this is a video about one of the air pollution myths, which is that the myth is that you're more exposed to air pollution outside your car than you are inside your car, but in actual fact you breathe a lot more air pollution inside your car than you do on a bike outside your car, even if you're directly behind someone's exhaust pipe on a bike. You can watch this video with full sound capacity on, if you go on YouTube and search for Sustrans Air Pollution Mythbusters, that'll be on YouTube. Next, so I'm not sure whether that video is finished. Yeah, it has. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, how can you help us? Well, I already mentioned completing our community or faith group surveys. There's something in it for you. You might be in it to win a £400 bike. So please complete our community and faith group surveys, or either community or faith group, depending on which one you're a member of. It will give us some useful feedback, which we really value. These are accessible from our blog page, so if you make a note of sustrans.org.uk/Brumbreathes, there's lots of resources available there, and the links to the surveys are on there as well if you can't remember that big long address for the survey. And please share our resources. Please tweet things about air quality using the hashtag Brumbreathes. And obviously, if you are interested in arranging an air quality walk or one of our tutorial sessions for your group, or attending one of our ad hoc sessions, please email brumbreathes@sustrans.org.uk. And again, that email address is available via the blog page, the sustrans.org.uk/Brumbreathes. Thank you very much, everyone. I think there might be one more slide, but I think it's just got our contact details on it. Yes, so Twitter, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, I should say, with the following handles. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you. So that does conclude both presentations. If there are any questions from those on the call this evening, specifically, I guess, with regards to faith and community groups and charities within the zone, if you could please pop them in the chat, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you if I can. I think the key takeaway from tonight, if I can encourage you all to go and check if you're going to be charged, and if you are subject to those charges, please apply for an exemption if you're eligible to do so. If you're not, and you need some advice on potential ways that you can try and combat those charges in terms of workarounds with car sharing, etc., we'll be more than happy to discuss those with you if you contact the Clean Air Zone team. But I must stress that the exemptions are set in a legal document, so we are very fixed on what we can and can't offer in terms of exemptions. But if you do have people who are eligible for a worker or a resident exemption, those exemptions, once they've got them, can be used for attending work, attending school, attending faith groups. They'll be covered. If you have vehicles assigned to your faith group and they are subject to the charge, you can put them forward for a commercial vehicle exemption. But other than that, I will put myself on mute. It's 7:28. I'll go on mute, and if you've got any questions, I will answer them. Otherwise, I'll give it a couple of minutes, and if there's no further questions, we can draw the meeting to a close. Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come through. Like I say, this is being recorded. We will send you a link to the recording afterwards, so you can circulate it to friends or family members, etc. Also, if you would like us to do a presentation to your congregation, to your members, please get in touch via the Clean Air Zone inbox and we can facilitate that for you. Otherwise, I will thank you all very much for your time this evening, for taking time out of your evenings on particularly a sunny night. Wish you all the best and thank you very much. I hope you found this helpful and take care and good night. Thank you.